Welcome back to another StarCraft 2 commentary. The Heart of Swarm, actually. This is going to be my first one. Of course, today we're going to be having it with the VortiX on the bottom right side of the map as the Blue Zerg player, and on the bottom left we do have Forge. As I think most of you pretty know both these players. They are, if I'm not mistaken, both of them are on the Grandmasters, so it's a pretty top-end game between both the players. Anyways, let us see how this build will progress, as this is my first Heart of the Swarm. I have been playing it a bit. I have put out a couple of replays, still very, very rusty at it, but, you know, a couple of replays are there. I think I've only managed to recently get to the top 3 ranking of the Plat ladder, so not a lot of time, but still. I will try to get some more time down, and maybe I'll start showing more of my replays playing the game really badly, but you know, still I will hopefully try to get back into the game, and once I get a little bit more time, I might even put a couple of more replays per week. Anyways, this is it for the actual general news in terms of what the hell's going on with me in regards to this. But will he actually manage to kill that SCV off? Yeah, he will. This is the thing, the actual Zerg drones are very, very effective. They do take forever to die, and until the actual barracks comes out with the Marine itself, he'll actually lose this SCV, which is really funny. He'll actually lose this SCV, so he's trying to keep the SCV alive. All he needs is just one hit. And there it goes. The drone with the SCV. It's being switched off. And we do have the command center coming on online. Well, did he actually give up? Yeah, he did manage to save the SCV, so that's very good on Forge. Forge managed to save that SCV off, and forcing, of course, VortiX to retreat. We do have that Overlord here. So far, the Overlord is doesn't have really a lot of vision in terms of being able to scout out the Forge's base. I don't know why VortiX does move it to the bottom left, but we'll see exactly what he actually has in mind with the placement of this Overlord. Not really where I would expect the actual Overlord to be, but he might actually use that for something else. Anyways, let's take a look at what we do have. We do have double supply depot, of course. The unbuildable plates will be dropped, and that is pretty much it. Factory, as well as how many? 3 racks, factory as well as 3 racks coming into play, and we are already on the 5-minute mark, so we have 2 bases of factory and 3 racks coming into play, while metabolic boost, of course, come down for VortiX. So we're going to have a little bit of faster Zerglings, another queen, and of course 5 drones. So VortiX is heavily droning up so far. He's not really interested in being aggressive at all. He is just trying to get his economy up and running. And finally those barracks are completed, and let's see what extensions he does decide. We do have 1 Tech Lab, maybe followed by 2 reactors as well, and probably double Hellion. Yes, we do have double Hellion, and gas is online as well, so we should maybe see the engineering bay come down if he's going to be going for that heavy bio build. Maybe not, maybe he'll actually start producing double mines, which I don't really think so. Yeah, we do have the double reactors as presumed, so hopefully the engineering bay will come down and we might see a couple of upgrades in terms of that. Roach Worm, of course, coming down for VortiX. So VortiX is finally switched down to roaches, so it's going to be Zergling Roach composition so far. Do we have a Nidus Swarm network is already on the way, so this is really interesting. We are going to have a Nidus attack coming down. That might be the reason why this Overlord is placed here, and yes, that is the reason why we have the Overlord placed here. So we are probably going to have a Nidus network being thrown down here. So is he going to get it done now? It's nearly completed though, so we are going to have a Nidus Worm, of course, with a couple of roaches. 5 roaches will be thrown into the mix. Let's just take the units. How many units is he planning to throw in? We're going to have obviously 6 Zerglings, 5 roaches as well, and 5 more being completed. So in total we are going to have 4 roaches. We should maybe see those 5 roaches with the 6 Zerglings, and the Nidus Worm will come down completely out of place though. So Forge is going to have a lot of damage coming in, and finally here comes the Nidus Worm. Nidus Worm is building up. He should be able to hear it. He doesn't hear it though. He is letting it build up though. Usually you do hear the Nidus Worm being built up. Unfortunately, he's completely out of place. He is too busy dealing with the actual And now finally moving down, a little bit too late though with Roaches. There's nothing really much he can do with all these Marines. The Marines will pretty much die, so he's going to use the actual SCVs being pulled off the line to move in to hopefully take off the actual damage by those Marines. As you do see, SCVs are being pushed forward, and the Roaches are of course retreating, as they do know that there's nothing they can do in terms of dealing with the actual SCVs, and the Marines do have the advantage, or the Terran does have the advantage in terms of that. He does take out the actual Night Swarm. Another Night Swarm is being dropped down. Of course he's targeting firing the Roaches first, and now he is trying to get a couple of pot shots off at the secondary Night Swarm that is starting to grow. And so far it does seem very good in Forge's hands. The rest of the Roaches will drop, and a couple of more Roaches do manage to come out of the actual Night Swarm before that drops, and that is the end of this harass. A lot of SCVs lost so far for both the players, but I can't even seem to get the damn hotkey right, so there we go. Workers killed 10-0, so far so good for VortiX. VortiX has only 10 workers killed though. SCVs is not really such a big deal as long as he has 2 orbitals, as you do see mules mining out. So if we do look at the resources, in terms of resources, it is pretty much equal, 230 to 300. Okay, he might be a little bit ahead in terms of resources. Now we have 250 to 500, 300 to 500. So again, it is switching so far in terms of the amount of minerals mined. Another Night Swarm being produced here, so he is again going to be very, very aggressive. VortiX is moving in already on his 3rd hatchery as well. So far for the upgrades, a lot of Roaches, nothing really much happening there. Not a Night Swarm, as we did say, is going to be completed. He is of course putting down the Crete here to prevent that 3rd base from expanding, so this will delay it quite a lot, because the creep does take quite a lot of time for it to go down. He is of course going to go down to scout that out, see that there's a lot of Roaches retreat. There's no way he's going to be up for that. FCV is being pulled off the line to start the repairs for the bunker, and here come the repairs for the bunker, and hopefully he'll actually be able to manage. I don't know if the bunker will actually survive that. A little bit too late though. Very nice target fire by VortiX. VortiX managed to drop the bunker. Of course the SCVs attacking, trying to provide as much cover fire and as many decoy hits as possible from the actual Roaches, as this is again a very heavy Marine build, and he does really need that stim research up and quickly as possible. He needs it up and ready. Finally, a little bit of a siege line defense, a little bit of additional splash damage that's going to be thrown down on those Roaches will prove to be very effective. Is he going to bait him in? I do believe he's going to bait him into the actual siege line, and did manage to drop one of those actual Hellions, so really good on VortiX for getting that pot shot off. So far it doesn't, I don't know why he is trying to just weed him in, maybe try to kill off the actual Night Swarm. Will he actually get it done? He will kill off the Night Swarm. That's exactly what he needed, and he will be able to push that out. Will he of course take out the actual Overlord? And that is it. Very good on play for him. And now of course he is going to retreat and return the actual favor and make it a little bit of economical damage. So here come the actual medevacs, of course, streaming in. We do have a couple of tanks moving into the front line, providing a little bit of cover fire in case those Roaches do decide to come back. Of course, very nice Overlord placement to spot that out. He will spot that out, and he did spot that out, of course, and the Roaches should be running into actual position. Yeah, here they do. Again, Zerglings and Roaches are being moved into place. He should pick him up, and maybe he actually might be able to take this out. I don't think so. Stim isn't still completed though. If you can just hold out for a couple of more seconds and get that Stim into play, it'll be very effective. But with no Stim, the Roaches should be pretty much be able to mop this up. Finally, Stim is there. Stim gets switched on, and as you do see, finally they do manage to mow down these Roaches with Stim. Roaches are not as effective in terms of killing the actual Marines as quick as possible, but still not a very effective push by Forge. Forge just pretty much should pick up this and retreat as much as possible. So far, economically and strategically, the actual push itself wasn't very advantageous for Forge. He didn't really manage to get any damage done, critical damage done, while VortiX on his actual pushes, he did manage to get quite a lot of critical damage down, taking down 10 drones, of course, postponing the actual continuous SCV production by Forge. So far, the actual game itself does look like that it is going towards Forge. I am starting to lose my speech for some odd reason, but you know, never mind. One, of course, Roach is moving down to just take a look at, scout out if that third base is up and running. This will, of course, tell him that he is hopefully going for those 2-base push aggression. So he really needs to get that 4th base up and running to be able to cope with this massive aggression that's coming in. Of course, we have more medevac drops, and here comes another medevac drop, of course, being spotted. Of course, all the Roaches, infestors as well, very key in terms of dealing with this. Will he actually be able to split this? This is the question. Will Forge be able to split this, siege up the tank in time, and be able to split these units before those infestors do come into play? Fungus, of course, being dropped down, a lot of fungals, and this should pretty much mop that up. Unfortunately, no split is happening in terms of the actual Marines, and this is the end of Forge's composition, and very sloppy. And not really, he didn't really know that the actual infestors were there. So hopefully the actual next encounter or the next drop that will be there will have a successful split in terms of dealing with his units. So far, again, he is on 2 bases. We do have that third command center finally being positioned, put into place. Of course, that roach will prevent that. A couple of marines will clean that up, and this will pretty much signal that he is going for that third base. So that is the end of the roach, sacrificial roach, that knows that the third base is pretty much coming into place as well. And a very nice placement by the actual siege tanks so far. So we do have 2 tanks, one on the higher ground, one on the lower ground, providing a little bit of support cover fire for the actual mineral line itself. Unfortunately, the disadvantage with this is that the actual splash damage does manage to, of course, splash out on the actual SCVs in the actual mineral line. Anyway, so we do have 3 bases to 5 bases so far. Finally, the 1 upgrade coming into play. A lot of upgrades coming down. We do have the 2 upgrades for actual VortiX. So VortiX is substantially ahead. Another Nidus Worm is coming in. And now the question is, will he be quick enough to deal with that? Unfortunately, he'll have to stim up his units and hopefully move in as quickly as possible. Nearly completed. The question is, will he actually get it done? That is unbelievable. Maybe, maybe not. Yes, he does manage to drop that as quickly as possible. So that is very good. Maybe one actual Viking wouldn't be a bad idea, just to keep that overload away, or maybe a couple of marines to keep that overload away and prevent that from happening ever again. It'll be a hell of a lot better than moving all his units across the map, but we will see exactly how to deal with that. So far, we do know that Forge isn't really bothered by the actual push, by the actual Nidus Worm harassment, and finally a push is coming down from VortiX. A lot of infested Zerglings as well. Are they on the... They do have the 1-1 upgrades, and so far it is a 1-1 upgrade versus an actual 0-1 though. So upgrade wise, of course, VortiX does have the advantage here, and here comes that the Zergling was a scout, which will pretty much tell him that a lot is happening here. I don't know if he'll be able to push this. Finally, he has a very nice split, so a very, very good split. Of course, fungals are being placed down, a lot of infested turns as well, and VortiX is managing to be very, very aggressive. Again, very, very nice fungals, targeting fungals down, and he will be able to mop this up, I do believe, very, very quickly. A lot of these units are going to drop, of course, forcing retreat by the infestors, as they can't really do much except the fungal placements. And he did actually manage to survive this, keeping, of course, the orbital command and his missile turret alive. So far, he might have actually got back into the game just by being able to cope with that, making those splits very effective, and just the amount of medevacs that are in place. Of course, we do have, I think, a lot of repairs happening for the actual medevacs. Yes, he is pulling a couple of SCVs down to repair the medevacs to keep them into play. A lot of Terrans don't really keep in mind how expensive these medevacs are. It is, of course, I think, how much was it, 100 to 100 or 150 to 100, so they are pretty expensive. Let's just take a look just to be sure. We do have 100 to 100, yes, so I was right. It is pretty expensive. This is just, I think, another harass medevac that's just going to be scouting out, maybe putting a little bit of harass on the actual production lines, which is needed to keep the actual Zerg player from expanding, because once he does get those 5 bases and the economy up running on those 5 bases, there's pretty much no stopping the Zerg player, as he can macro up very, very quickly. So I think he does sense that something's coming there, as you do see a couple of Zerglings are being placed down there, so that'll pretty easily mop up the drop that is coming that way. And of course, more Zerglings coming into the play. And now the question is, does he have enough to deal with this? Unfortunately, he's out of position, so the Zerglings will provide a lot of damage, and the Queen's being thrown into the mix as well, including 1 Broodlord, so 2 Broodlords. No, actually, we do have a hell of a lot more. So this is a very, very aggressive push by VortiX throwing in. Let's just take a look at the unit composition. We do have 9 Broodlords in the mix with 86 Zerglings and 5 infestors with 7 queens. I'm not sure if he took all the queens into play. No, he didn't. He took only 4 of them. And of course, 1 corruptor. Why the hell not throw 1 in if that's the only unit that's missing? Will he get into place? This is the question. Will he get into place? Will he be able to spot that out? He spots that out. Now we should siege up as quickly as possible, get into position, make those splits, and finally those splits are going to be hopefully coming into play. And will he be able to deal with this? This is the question. A fungal being placed down. Very nice fungal surrounded by Zerglings, of course. A little bit too late in terms of the actual siege lines, but he should be able to mop this up in terms of dealing with this as well. We do have still a couple of more Marines, of course, unsieging, moving them a little bit back, and trying to deal with the actual Broodlings being thrown down. That is at the end of the missile turret, and so far it's going to be, of course, moving to the base, forcing the actual lift of the command center. SCV should be pulled off as quickly as possible just to prevent that from happening. Will the orbital actual command survive that? Of course, the push now happening, a very, very aggressive push. He does realize he needs to push to deal with the Broodlings, especially to try to save his actual orbital command, which he is doing, and I think he might actually be able to do that. But unfortunately, just the amount of Broodlords are not making it possible so far. All the Marines have been taken out. Again, Zerglings are coming in to back it up, maybe mop up the actual Zerglings, and of course MforGG calls it a GG, and there is no way he could have kept up with the actual push coming down from VortiX, of course, is already on the 2-2 upgrades on his actual broodlings themselves, so very, very effective in terms of the actual broodlings upgrade-wise. Again, he just has... let's just take, do we have any Marines? Are there any Marines at all? We do have only the 1-1 upgrades for the actual Marines, but generally the actual composition with the amount of corruptors, with the actual broodlings, and of course the zerglings on the ground with the infestors that did throw down a couple of very nice fungals, made this game really go for Forge. This was a no-brainer, very nice play, and as always, happy gaming. See you guys next time. Bye.